Hi everyone, and welcome once again to the Big Ideas Theater here at AARC. I'm your host, Ed Highland. And I've got the honor now of being joined by Jeff Haynes, who's going to talk to us a little bit about the 2017 ATS-ERS guidelines on the diffusing capacity of the lung, DLCO. Jeff, thanks for joining us.
Nice to be here.
Let's talk a little bit about the DLCO test and why it's important.
Well, the DLCO test tests the ability of the lungs to absorb gas molecules. And the way that that's done is the patient inhales a full breath of tracer gas that contains a small amount of carbon monoxide. The patient holds their breath for 10 seconds, and when they exhale, we're able to compare what they exhaled to what the concentration was once they inhaled, and the difference is the ability of the lung to absorb those molecules. It's important because it reflects a lot of different aspects of lung function, including lung volume, surface area, distribution of ventilation, the thickness of the alveolar capillary membrane, and the blood flow in the lung. And it can be reduced in a lot of different lung diseases, obstructive disease like emphysema, restrictive diseases like pulmonary fibrosis, pulmonary vascular disease like pulmonary hypertension, and even if you're anemic. And it's used to make some big, important decisions for patients, such as, are you suitable for thoracic surgery? Are you eligible for disability or employment? And it's also used to monitor patients for lung toxicities from drugs. So for example, if you're a patient with lymphoma and you're getting a chemotherapy agent, we want to make sure that you don't get life-threatening lung toxicity from it, so we would follow that over time and be able to intervene earlier. And that's why it's so important that we have these new technical standards so that manufacturers, clinicians can perform and interpret these tests correctly.
Give us some ideas, some of the key changes, if you will, in the guidelines.
Many of the key changes actually affect the manufacturers in terms of the rapid gas analyzers and what the specifications should be. The patients really don't do the test any different than it's been done for many, many years. What has changed is what we deem as a quality test. So in the 2005 technical standard, if the patient inhaled 85% of their vital capacity, that was deemed acceptable. That's been raised to 90% simply because most patients can do it. In the 2005 standard, if the patient did 2 tests and they were within 3 units of measure, that was considered acceptable for reproducibility. That's been raised to 2, or lowered to 2, because most patients can do it. The other thing that has changed is in terms of quality control. Many people think to do simulations you need a big expensive device which costs thousands and thousands of dollars, and the new technical standard shows you how you can do these simulations with a simple 3-liter syringe that everybody has.
Now, how would pulmonary technicians start incorporating some of the new guidelines into their practice?
Well, I think you need to be a squeaky wheel, and you have to be patient because there is a lot for the manufacturers to do. I certainly wouldn't wait for years for them to contact you and say, hey, we have all the new software for you. So it would be good to call them and see how they're doing, but you have to be patient because a lot of things have to change, and of course they want to test these very carefully before they release this for patient testing. Some of the stuff you can just do now. So for example, if you see that the patient hasn't inhaled 90% of their best vital capacity, you don't have to accept it. You have them do another one. If you've done 2 tests and are not within 2, you don't have to accept that, even if your software is designed that way. Make them do another one so you get the 2 units of measure reproducibility. You can certainly do all the quality control that's recommended in biological testing. And if you're someone who's going to be taking the National Board for Respiratory Care's pulmonary function examinations, you should really review this document because that content will be on the exam.
I don't want to go too far afield, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but does this throw into question some of the insurance aspects of it? I mean, if you're talking 85% versus 90%, then the insurance company says, well, we're not going to cover because it falls in a certain range. I don't want to get too far afield, but
no, I don't think
concern?
That's an issue. It's really coming from within, that we know that we can perform these tests better than the previous guidelines suggest. So we're just making it tighter because we know we can do it.
Perfect answer. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Pleasure, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank
This
you.
is the Big Ideas Theater here at AARC, and it's brought to you by Draeger.